Today, I want to talk to you about working with beats. Now, I've got something here that was created by Injeti, and I'm allowed to quietly say, written over top of a beat that J. Cole gave to Chin. Let's take a look at how it was put together and tap into what it's like working with beats. So Chin was given this beat by the person who I just mentioned, and he has a group called Stuff for the Children. And so he got together with Living and Shalom Johnson, and they wrote to this beat and then added some stuff to it. I'm going to walk you through all of the elements and show you how they created it and how the mix was put together. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to show you is just the track by itself, but I want to highlight point one, which is to leave sonic space. So let's just play the track for a minute. Listen to the track. There's lots of room in it. There's time for things to happen. It's not all cluttered, and it's really, really important that you either create stuff like that, or if you're choosing beats to work on, have it, because if you can't get the vocal to fit with it, it's never going to really marry. Let's look at the second point, and that is you need development. So if we start just before where the verse starts, now you see it's really simple, but you see how elements are coming in and out? It feels more broken down, then the shaker comes in. If you're creating a beat, I would suggest that you create it as if it's a song. And even if you create more sections than you think might end up being used, if you give some variations, then those can serve different sections of the song. And that way you can really bring something to life that isn't just a static 2 or 4 bar loop. So point 3 is going to be customized. Now maybe you can do it with vocals, maybe you can do it with instruments. Chin added some stuff to the track to lift what was actually happening. Let me play you the guitar. You need to name an emotion when you're writing, or a setting, and the setting for this was a lazy, happy, hot summer day, and he wanted that feeling of spaciousness and just relaxation. Okay, if we go a little further downstream, some percussion at the end of the song. Now, we've got vocals as well. There's a big vocal arrangement. It's taken forever for the earth to rotate. Here, I just want to highlight the vibe that he's created. Now, I've added a little bit of EQ to it to polish it up a little bit and take out some of the frequencies that I thought were a bit of an issue. The reverb that's on the voice was a part of the setting that he really wanted to create. It's kind of quiet, but you get the idea. Isn't that great how he's put that reverb in to give it that spacious feeling? Does it sound natural? No, doesn't matter. It sounds spacious. It creates an environment. It creates a whole imagery in your mind, and that can mean different things to different people, but he brought that with the production. I didn't add anything to the vocal because the way that it all spaced out and felt nice, I thought was really good. So my approach to this was to do something called a top-down mix, and the intent here is to make it all one, and that's my fourth point. Make everything all one. Some people would agree with me, some people wouldn't, but this is an approach that I use when working with 2 tracks often. I was presented with what's basically a complete picture, and I didn't want to disturb that too much. So what I did was I added tape, and the idea here is to sort of glue things together bit by bit. So let's just add these plugins one by one. I'll show you what they look like. It was so long, there was no escape. It was so long. So here what I'm doing is I'm adding some vibe of a mixing board. So this emulates what an SSL sounds like. I tend to use the SSL and the Neve on this. For this particular instance, I like the vibe of the SSL more. This thing is called the Bomber. It's kind of like a compressor, kind of like a saturator all in one. You can use it to either pump up the attacks or smooth out a track a little bit and make it feel a bit more full. In this case, I just sort of smeared it a little bit. After that, compression. So there's an SSL, which is this one, So the second compressor, they call it Red. It's like a Focusrite compressor. Chris Ordalgi is famous for using this compressor. So I actually don't have any compression going on in the first one. I just liked what it did to the sound.
It was so long. There was no escape. It was so long. It's taken forever for the earth to rotate.
The second one, I just liked how it sort of filled in and controlled the bottom end at the same time. This is the Greg Wells mix bus.
It was so long.
Just adding a little bit of vibe and some top end clarity. It's kind of like also saturation, but it just helps clear things up. I don't exactly know what's going on under the hood, but I don't care. I like the way it sounds. I just find you have to be careful not to overuse it. This plugin I've used primarily just to make it mono in the bottom. I have added a little bit of Ozone 8. Primarily what I'm doing here is just adding a little bit of imaging and a little bit of overall EQ. It's quite subtle. That's only a 1 dB boost.
It was so long.
Okay, you'll notice I'm hardly hitting that. I'm using the Dynamics, which is the compressor, just to even everything out a little bit. I've lowered the threshold for the limiter in the bottom end, and what I'm trying to do there is just get the bass to even out. So I have pulled a lot of bass out of here, so it would seem like I'm trying to bring the bass back up, which in a way I'm trying to do. I tried to lighten 50 hertz zone. It was just a bit boggy, but then bring up the bass as an overall element in the end. And then I added standard clip, and I actually didn't end up hitting it, but I left it there because it sounded like it was doing a good thing.
It was so long.
The vocal in this song already had a really strong vibe. It's kind of bright. It doesn't have a lot of bottom end, but it really created a vibe, and I didn't want to disturb that.
Was the longest day. It was so long.
So again, I'm hitting everything really lightly. Now, I'm not afraid to nail a compressor, but in this instance, the vibe was so great. I just really wanted to polish everything a little bit. It was almost like mastering each track.
There was no escape. It was so long.
Nice harmonies again. That goes back to customizing. It's not a single vocal over a track. Everything is married together. What have I done? I've put a little tape on it. Just kind of brings the vocals close together. The sonics of this were already really, really good. I didn't need to do a lot. So don't be afraid to not touch something. If it sounds great, maybe leave it alone. Okay, so let's look at what I think are the important components of how this was put together. Number one, track. The space. It's really, really important that if you're creating a track or if you're choosing a track to work to, you can hear space in it. Next thing is either create or look for development. Number three, customize on top. And the fourth thing is it must become one in the end. In the end, you've got to think of it as a song and don't think of it as two separate things. Now, if you are a vocalist or a rapper, remember that that track is there to support and take on a musical journey. You don't really shine unless the supportive part, the track and the music all around what you're doing is really supporting you, make somebody feel something. So I just want to give a shout out to Suffer the Children, Injeti, I'm the Living, Shalom Johnson, and J. Cole for letting me present this. I just wanted to use it as a platform for working with beats and how I think are some good ways of approaching it. If you thought anything I was saying was kind of cool, it'd be awesome if you would hit that subscribe button. If you want to get in touch with me, engage me on Instagram, at Steve in the Mix. That's where I do a lot of my communicating. I hope to see you there.